It's 1:32. I'd like to get the meeting of the December 18, 2017 Traffic and Transportation Commission call to order. Roll call, Commissioner Clare, not available. Commissioner Littlefield, not available. Commissioner White, not available. Commissioner Hale.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Schuline.
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner George.
Here.
And I'm here, so we do have a quorum. Can I have a motion concerning the minutes of the November 20th, 2017 meeting, please?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Hale. Do we have
Second.
a second? By Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion? We have a motion to approve the minutes of November 20th, 2017 from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. The report on license and taxi record services will be next month. We have the consent docket, item 4. There's 3 items on it. Do we have anybody here to speak against an item on the consent docket? Okay. Do we have any staff input on the consent?
No, these items are recommend consent because, inasmuch as they meet warrants for their use.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion for the consent docket, please?
Motion to approve consent docket.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Hale. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion? Okay. Motion to approve items 4, A, B, and C from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. We go on now to item 5, 5A, Victoria New, to consider a request for the addition of stop control on North Georgia Avenue at Northwest 37th Street to establish all-way stop control. Do we have anybody here to speak on this item? Hello, ma'am. Let's see, we have several here.
Hi, I'm Victoria New, and I started the petition. I live right across the street from the school where I watch the kids come and go all day, and as part of our neighborhood, we help support the school. I reached out to some of the people who are here today, the PTA, the principal, who would like to see this 4-way stop sign there. There was a temporary time, I think it was last year, when Rochelle, our crosswalk lady there, left, and she wasn't there, and she can't always be there. I see we didn't meet all the criterion, but as you state in your note that there is a emphasis towards it being towards a school, and 180-day plus, that school's full with pre-K to 6th graders, so very little to up to 11. And I watch them out my window coming and going, and there's quite a few walkers and drivers. I saw where we didn't meet a lot of the requirements. What I didn't know on the traffic flow study, what day maybe that took place. I know the speed, I can see that, but I was a little concerned that maybe it took place during fall break, but I don't know that for sure. That was October 9th through the 20th. And the traffic would have definitely been less at that time. And like I said, the school's in session 180 plus days a year with the students, not including principals and teachers. They do evening things too, where the kids walk up to the school for evening programs and stuff like that. So you've got a lot of little kids in the neighborhood and walking to that school, and that was more or less the purpose of our supporting the school and me heading up the 4-way petition for the school.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, when you walked up, did you give your full name and your full address?
My full name is Victoria New.
And your address?
My address is 1559 Northwest 37th.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And I'm on that northeast corner of Georgia and 37th. And I do get a little concerned about the speed sometimes with the kids, because there are kids in the neighborhood too, and I guess that's
Okay, very good, thank you.
it.
Anybody else wanted to come up? Ma'am? If I can have your name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
My name is Libby Hart, and my address is 1537 Northwest 37th Street. I'd just like to add a little bit to what she said. The crossing guard is almost always there at the stop sign, but she's really supposed to be helping kids to cross the street safely. And now, without a stop sign there, she's more of traffic control and kind of like jumping out when speeding cars are coming by with her stop sign in her hand. And another point to note in that intersection, there's a hill, a nice hill for taking skateboards down and bikes down. You get really good speed, and then you're in that intersection where there's no stop sign. So you go down the hill where there is a stop sign, and unbeknownst to you, now you're into the fast-moving traffic that doesn't have a stop sign. And I do see, in addition to what Victoria said, also there is a lot of foot traffic, a lot of kids walking to and from school, and I mostly see that on 37th Street, but I'm sure that they go all the way throughout the neighborhood, but probably 20 kids that leave from the school to walk up 37th Street. So that's just one direction from the school, a number of kids on foot going through a no stop sign intersection. And I think that is about it.
All right, thank you. Anybody else wanting to speak? Yes, sir. If I can have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Ben Felder. I live at 1141 Northwest 37th Street in Oklahoma City's Ward 2. I'm also the president of the PTO at Putnam Heights Elementary, where my son attends kindergarten. Most mornings, my son and I walk nearly half a mile to school, and it's a start to the day that I cherish. And we are hardly alone, as dozens of students can be seen making their way to Putnam Heights each morning. Our route to school includes crossing the 6-lane Classen Boulevard. We live just east of it. Which during the morning rush hour is quite congested and can take several minutes to navigate. However, the most dangerous part of our walk is the intersection of Northwest 37th Street and North Georgia Avenue, which is the intersection under review. This is because the intersection is not a 4-way stop. There are stop signs on 37th Street, but not on Georgia. Putnam Heights Elementary is located on the southwest corner of this intersection. I can assure you, as someone who almost daily crosses this intersection with my son, that the day will come when a child, parent, or other pedestrian is hit by a car. I have seen too many close calls not to believe that. Traffic does not stop along Georgia, yet there is a faintly painted crosswalk. Most students walking to school are not accompanied by an adult, and I have seen many cross the street in front of a car that does not have to stop. I have heard the screeching of brakes and watched motorists swerve to miss students. The Putnam Heights PTO has talked about the need for a 4-way stop, and we are willing to help fund additional signage and repainting a more visible crosswalk to help the area become more pedestrian friendly. But we need the city to install 2 more stop signs. It is important for the city to have traffic thresholds when initially looking into a request like this, but I would ask that this request not be dismissed simply because the city's count of nearly 1,400 cars does not meet the 2,500 daily threshold. At least 380 students either walk or get a ride to the school with one of their parents. One family I regularly see includes a student, the mother, and her 2 young children who are not of school age, so it's likely the number of pedestrians each morning is even higher. I just want to make one quick note about the crossing guard. Most mornings, we're really appreciative of our crossing guard. She's there at 8. Breakfast starts at 7:45, and a lot of students get there even earlier, around 7:30, so there's already traffic, pedestrian traffic, well before the crossing guard gets there. A 4-way stop would also help control speeds. The spot speed study was conducted on a Friday from roughly 10 to 11 a.m., which does not accurately reflect the traffic at the beginning or end of the school day. As a parent at the nearby school and a regular pedestrian in the area, I am requesting that the Traffic and Transportation Commission approve this request, which will result in a safer start to the day for the over 380 students of Putnam Heights. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Anybody else want to speak? I believe there was one more. Suzanne, did you want to speak? Okay. All right, very good, ma'am. Anybody else? Okay, do we have staff input?
Okay, you've got our staff comments before you. One thing I want to flag is that the MUTCD warrants for, or traffic entering volume warrants for use of all-way stop control starts at 2,000 vehicles per day. The city's longstanding policy has always been 2,500. This particular intersection has got a traffic entering volume of just over 1,400 cars a day. The one thing I want to note is that the Minor Street volume on Georgia is about on 37th Street is about 81% that of the volume on on Georgia Avenue, which means the traffic entering this intersection is about balanced, which, had it not met the basic traffic volume criteria for considering always stop control, and a location that's got about balanced traffic volume would probably be considered a reasonable candidate. We do note that although it's not specifically addressed in any of the city or the MUTCD's criteria, the use of always stop control could be beneficial at intersections immediately adjacent to schools, where school-age pedestrians, which are the most inexperienced and vulnerable group of all roadway users, are likely to cross a street on their way to and from school. So action on this item is going to be at the discretion of the Commission.
All right, can I have a motion concerning item 5A?
Mr. Chairman, I move the application be approved.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Schuline
Second.
and a second by Commissioner George. Any discussion? And the only thing I'd like to bring up, can you put in a work order to repaint the crosswalk? Is that how that works?
I've already got it noted.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we're just going to put in a work order to get that redone. Okay. Any other talk on this item? Okay. We have a motion to approve item 5A from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner George. Votes, please. All right. Thank you very much. We go on now to item 5B, William Riley, to consider a request for a school day 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. parking restriction on both sides of Northwest 46th Street from North Tulsa Avenue to approximately 150 feet east of the east pavement edge of North Tulsa Avenue. Anybody here to speak on item 5B? Hello, sir. If I could have your name, address, you have up to 5 minutes.
My name's William Riley. I live at 4035 Northwest 46th Street. Recently, in my neighborhood, I've lived there since '96, but the Putnam City School District needed a place to put a school, and they put a school across the street from me on North Tulsa there. And it's an odd corner. 46th Street dead ends into Tulsa, and the drive to the school is offset from my street on the other side of the road. Ever since I noticed this traffic problem out there at the rush hours of school, there's certain parents that respect people, but there's other parents that have no idea, what they're trying to get their kids to school and so on. We have about 15 or 20 kids that cross that street into my neighborhood. The neighborhood does not have curbs. It does not have sidewalks. There's no, instruction for the children to maintain some sort of order when they go across the street. They run to their cars and throw both doors open. I've seen them throw the door open on the curbside, and the parents standing there trying to get them in the car on the curbside, and they run around the car into the street on the street side. So the traffic problem has not been as much of an issue as my concern for the children. There's no crosswalk. There's no lights. They have tried to resolve the problem by putting a teacher on the corner. There must be maybe 100 children that come to that corner that I'm talking about, and they gang up on the corner and they walk down the sidewalk on that side of the street. The teacher waits till she gets a group and gets them across safely when she's watching them. She could be talking to another group of kids that are there on the corner that, you know how kids are when they get out of school, they're all excited. But getting the kids across the street to their parents' cars, seems, I was trying to think, well, what could I do to help this situation? Because cars back up on Tulsa both ways and stop at that corner. And when they're coming from the south, they're turning left into that drive across traffic. Well, at school time, that's not really, trying to get kids across the corner where there's no light, there's no directional signs of any kind to help the traffic problem. And talking to the school superintendent, we've received letters back. It's kind of like, we're Putnam City, that's Oklahoma City. We're right on the line of the issue here. And cars will literally pull out after 10 of them back up on one side or the other of that intersection. They'll literally pull out and pass the cars that are waiting to turn into that school. They built this school with drives all the way 2 blocks in their property to the next street in their neighborhood over there. And I've often wondered why they didn't have more concern about that corner being an issue, because there's brakes, there's horns, there's shaking of fists. Truck drivers come down through there, and they're not wanting to be held up. They want to get on with their day. I know it's not long. It's like a 15-minute to a 30-minute period that this goes on morning and night or afternoon. But I feel like the issue might have been resolved by me sticking some no parking signs in my yard. My neighbors have sprinkler systems. I don't have one, fortunately. The street is narrow. You can see the pictures, how narrow it is when you get a car parked on the side, on the street, so they pull on the grass. And that hits sprinklers. So I thought a parking situation might resolve that, running across the street and having the kids in jeopardy. I'm just worried about the kids.
Very good,
I could care less about my grass.
Thank you for your time, sir. Anybody else wanted to speak on item 5B? Yes, sir. Please come on up. If I could have your name, address, you have up to 5 minutes, and then fill one of these out when you're done, please.
My name is Carl Levy. I live at 4401 Memory Lane, a couple of blocks away from the intersection. I'm not directly affected, but I help Bill with some of the paperwork and such. And I've seen what's the reason I've been involved. I've watched the traffic over there. And what's happening on Tulsa with a no left turn, as he mentioned, of traffic trying to get off of Tulsa into the school, it's a total blockades. And so we're working on trying to get a no left turn sign in there, and our police community relations officer, I think, is going to try to assist it, since Putnam City has totally turned a blind eye to the situation there. Regarding the parking, as you can see from the photos, as some of the parents park on 46th Street, it makes it absolutely impassable for a vehicle to go down 46, including emergency vehicles or anyone, where you actually have to back up, turn around, use another street. So that's basically what Bill said and what I'm repeating.
All right, thank you, sir. Please fill out one of the forms.
I'll fill one of those out.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to speak on item 5B? Staff input, please.
All right, you've got our comments before you. The application before you is a request for a school day, 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. parking restriction that's on both sides of Northwest 46th Street for about 150 feet to the east of Tulsa Avenue. The requested school day parking restriction will improve safety and accessibility conditions on 46th Street at its intersection with Tulsa at the times of day when most needed, and not affect parking at other times when school is not in session. So in recognition of full neighborhood support from the affected residents and the resulting improved traffic access conditions, staff can support the request as it's been submitted. So action will be at the discretion of the commission.
We have a motion concerning item 5B.
Motion to approve.
Motion from Commissioner Hale. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Votes, please. The item is approved. We go on now to item 5C. Jimmy Keys, President, Treadwell Hills Neighborhood Association, to consider request for a no vehicles in excess of 2 axles restriction on 1 Northport Avenue between Northwest 39th Street and Northwest 41st Street, 2 Northwest 41st Street between Newport Avenue and North St. Clair Avenue, 3 North St. Clair Avenue between Northwest 41st Street and Northwest 44th Street, and 4 Northwest 44th Street between North St. Clair Avenue and North Portland Avenue. Anybody here to speak on item 5C? I am here, but I don't need to speak. Okay, thank you very much, sir. Ma'am, did you want to speak? Okay, I guess I have your card right here. Come on up. Let me have your name and your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
My name is Charlene Caldwell. I live at 3421 Northwest 44th Street, and I am here about the situation that you talked about. We have children playing, people walking, the streets are narrow, there's parking on our streets. We have limited access to exit our resident, and I'm afraid that if we had more than 2 axle vehicles in our neighborhood, it would be dangerous to our children, residents, and the ability for us to come and go from our neighborhood. And I do appreciate if you would approve that, and it would help us all, because there's limited lighting and children walking, mothers pushing strollers, and I think it would just be too dangerous for our neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Anybody else wanting to speak on item 5C? Okay, staff input, please.
Okay, you've got all our comments before you. We did do a limited vehicle classification study. Over the course of our study, we noted that the truck traffic volume on Newport Avenue runs about 1.2%. However, when looking at this percentage, the average daily traffic volume on Newport itself is in the neighborhood of about 325 vehicles per day. The requested axle restriction may deter some truck traffic from using the neighborhood, or those streets identified by the applicant. The way our codes are structured, the truck restriction is written such that if you're driving a vehicle that's got more than 2 axles, you are allowed within areas where this restriction is posted if you've got legitimate business within it. The primary purpose for posting this will be to deter some truck traffic from using the neighborhood, especially if they've got no cause to be in it. When we did go out and look at the site, we did note that the new Winco grocery store, which is under construction, doesn't really have any direct truck access to any of these streets. So some of the stuff that might have been seen by residents might have been construction-related traffic. Hopefully that situation will be abated. But like I said, posting the signs will not prevent truck drivers from being able to get into the neighborhood if they've actually got business, and it should help keep others out. So action on this matter will be at your discretion.
Okay, can I have a motion concerning 5C?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Hale. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5C from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Votes, please. Okay, item is approved. We go on now to item 5D, Alan Green, Chief Operations Officer, Mustang Public Schools, to consider requests for a signal-regulated westbound left turn restriction on Southwest 29th Street at the westernmost driveway serving Mustang Valley Elementary School, 3001 South Morgan Road. Hi, sir. Can I have your name, address? You have up to 5 minutes.
I'm Alan Green, Chief Operations Officer for Mustang Public Schools, here representing Mustang Public Schools. The address of the school is 3001 South Morgan Road. Is that the appropriate address?
That's perfect. Okay. Thank you.
So I'm just here to answer any questions in support of the left turn restrictions. This was all brought about by school administrations that going west on 29th Street in the morning and the afternoon, being a 2-lane road, essentially creates a gridlock situation with cars having to go off the side of the road or even in the center lane. So it was a safety restriction brought forward by the principal, and the school district wholeheartedly agrees in that recommendation.
All right. Anybody else wanting to speak on item 5D? Okay, can I have staff input, please?
All right, you got our comments before you. The primary purpose for this being recommended as a signal-controlled turn restriction would be allow us to post something that would be readily viewable by drivers that may or may not be familiar with the area. And if the school ever alters its calendar, in the event that they need to extend it due to snow days or other such things, then it gives us the ability to operate this flasher at the times when they need it. And also, if they alter their school days, the hours of operations, it can be tailored, because we would tie this directly to the operation of the school zone flashing signals. And what it'll primarily do is it will ease traffic conditions westbound on Southwest 29th Street. And you can tell by looking at some of the photos that we've provided that there is a tendency to queue traffic up in both directions on 29th Street, which is currently just one lane in each direction at this time. So that should help at least traffic movement in one direction. So action will be on this matter at the discretion of the Commission.
We have a motion concerning item 5D.
Move approval.
We have a motion to approve item 5D from Commissioner George. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5D from Commissioner George, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Votes, please. Okay, item is approved. We now go to item 5E, Douglas Cantaline, to consider a request for the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of South Sooner Road and Southeast 70th Street. Do we have anybody here to speak on this item? Okay. Do we have staff input?
You've got comments before you. As far as running straight warrant analysis, this location was found to meet a condition B of warrant 1, which is the 8-hour volume, and it satisfied warrant 2, which is a 4-hour volume. It does not have any line of sight, or it doesn't have a collision history that would indicate that a traffic signal is required at this location. The MUTCD does caution that the satisfaction of a traffic signal warrant or warrants shall not in itself require the installation of a traffic control signal. We have provided an area map showing known signals that have been approved, pending changes, and potential other locations where there might be other signals sought in the near future. So at this point in time, if the Commission were to evaluate this particular, recommend approval of a traffic signal at this particular location, staff would recommend that Sooner Road would be widened for north and southbound left turn lanes at 70th Street. So action on this matter will be at the discretion of the Commission, or you could potentially consider tabling it so you could discuss it with the applicant. It's Commission's option at this time.
All right, do we have a motion concerning item 5E?
Motion to disapprove.
Motion to disapprove item 5E from Commissioner Hale. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I second the motion.
We have a second by Commissioner Miller. Do you have any discussion on this item?
Well, make sure I'm straight. It does meet the requirements for a signal light at this time. Is that what you said?
Yes, but if you stop and look at big picture type things, on most busy arterial roadways where you've got neighborhoods tying in, I mean, there's potential that you could run up and down a corridor and find nearly all intersections might meet warrants for using traffic signals. So you have to balance the operation of the facility in this case, which would be the major arterial being Sooner Road, versus the needs of area residents. And primarily with the applicant's letter addressed was difficulty in getting out on the Sooner Road. There's not a collision history that would indicate necessarily there are any safety-related issues. There aren't any line-of-sight issues. So it just happens to meet a couple of the volume criteria.
Okay. Any other talk on item 5E? We have a motion to disapprove item 5E by Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Miller. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is disapproved. We go on now to item 5F, Timothy W. Johnson, P.E., President, Johnson & Associates, Inc., to consider 4 different sub-items. We have staff input first. If that's okay, we just go staff input.
Okay, yeah, on this particular case, the first two portions of the item were approved at the last meeting, and those two items are going to the city council. Actually, they're going for introduction. The ordinances are going at the city council meeting tomorrow. At the last meeting, there was discussion about items 3 and 4, and since parts 1 and 2 were approved, discussion on parts 3 and 4 was deferred to this meeting. The applicant has since turned in an application for 60-degree angle parking at the same location. So in order to consider the 60-degree angle parking, it's recommended that item 5F be struck from the application, or from this agenda, in favor of considering the next item.
Okay. Do we have a motion concerning item 5F?
I'll make the motion to strike.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Miller to strike item 5F. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner George. Any discussion on this one? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Miller to strike item 5F, and it was seconded by Commissioner George. Can I have your votes? Okay. All right, now we'll go on to item 5G, Timothy W. Johnson, P.E., President Johnson and Associates, Inc., to consider a request to, 1, establish 60-degree angle parking within a proposed on-street inset parking area on the west side of Rhode Island Avenue from approximately 56 feet south to 151 feet south of the south curb line of Northeast 23rd Street, and 2, establish 1 reserved parking space for the physically disabled on the west side of Rhode Island Avenue from approximately 112 feet south to 142 feet south of the south curb line of Northeast 23rd Street. Mr. Johnson, name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Tim Johnson, 1 East Sheridan, Suite 200, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Here on behalf of the applicant. As those that were here will recall, we originally applied for the 90-degree parking. After much discussion, we agreed to change that to 60-degree, which we did, and we reapplied out of consideration of Mr. Chai's request to not have it approved at last month's meeting so that it could be commingled with a correct staff report. So we deferred to today. And so what you have before you is our request for 60-degree. The goal here is, if we leave it as we've got it designed, we meet the city standards, but we don't meet the cushion that we've talked about in your policy. We also discussed at the last meeting that we have very low traffic on Rhode Island, and there are many, many examples of new angle parking in the city that's been added that match what we're doing here at 19.8 feet. So I know that's a policy. Unfortunately, the building is a historic building that's being repurposed, and we need to keep a walking sidewalk from our proposed parking lot on the south, which was approved by Planning Commission last Thursday, up to the front of the building where the front doors will be. So if we go to a steeper angle parking, 45 degrees, to add, I think, as much as a foot to that cushion, we lose 2 spaces. And parking is critical for us. We've restricted the number of parking spaces required based on what we show. And that's what the PUD was approved as. And so every parking space is very valuable. And as if you'll recall, we were a little contrary to turning it 60 degrees simply because it forces traffic into the neighborhood. But to keep as many parking spaces as we can, we agreed to make this change. I've got several exhibits here. I can show you, just by example, there's several angle parking spaces along Broadway that were installed in the last couple of years that are shorter than these and narrower than what we're proposing. Traffic on Broadway is much higher. We only have 420 cars per day on Rhode Island. And then the new barrios up at, I believe that's 8th Street and Hudson. Their spaces are identical to these, with the approach street being the same width as Rhode Island on 8th Street. So we would fall on the commission and ask that you approve this.
All right. Anybody else wanted to speak on item 5G? Okay, do we have staff input?
Okay, you've got our full comments before you. Typically, we recommend deeper spaces just for hazard recognition, for both people backing out and for traffic approaching. I'd be happy to answer any questions Commission might have on this item.
All right. We have a motion concerning item 5G.
I have a question. What's the minimum sidewalk requirement?
Adjacent
I mean,
to
it
angle
meets code.
parking, 5 foot is the minimum
5 foot.
sidewalk required, yes.
So we could gain a foot there by making it a 5-foot sidewalk to help.
Yeah, the application shows a 6-foot walk adjacent to the angle parking spaces.
Yeah, would you consider a 5-foot the minimum there?
Well, we would. I think the only concern I have with that, with angle parking, when your front wheel hits that curb, we wanted to have enough space to allow ADA access next to that building. And a front overhang can be as much as 2 feet. If we narrow it to 5, we've narrowed that ADA space to 3 feet. That's the applicant's concern.
I don't understand if the minimum code's 5 and it's considered different angles. Is that true?
Probably the greatest bumper overhang you're going to get is in the condition when you're 90-degree angle parking to the curb. As the angle of your car, as the angle increases or goes away from 90 degree to some like 75 or 60 degree, the level of overhang decreases. So there are a number of photographs in the case report, and we looked at several areas where angle parking exists. We've noticed that by and large, a lot of newer vehicles, all the trucks are excluded from that because they've got higher ground clearance, but most newer cars won't even encroach over top of those because they've got like a wind dam mounted underneath the front bumper, and that's typically damaged if you try and pull up over top of like a 6-inch curb.
So my question to you, would a 5-foot sidewalk with 60-degree angle parking be better than 45-degree angle parking in a 6-foot sidewalk?
It would be.
It would be.
If that's the requirement, then that's what we'll need to do.
You're saying the 60-degree with a 5-foot is better than a 45 with a 6?
Yes, sir.
So you'd rather have the 5-foot?
Because we lose 2 spaces.
Okay, you'd rather have a 5-foot sidewalk with 60-degree angle parking?
Because we need the 2 spaces.
Okay, that's what I would approve.
Second.
Well, we don't have a motion yet. We're still waiting.
Although I would hate,
Hold on.
The owner would like to respond.
I would hate that if a big truck pulls up, that now we're no ADA, we're no longer, a wheelchair can no longer go by because we went from a 6-foot to a 5-foot. So,
Well, at a 45-degree or at 60-degree angle, I'm not sure if the truck overhang would be sufficient to block it because you typically need 4 feet for the accessible path itself. But the city's minimum sidewalk requirements typically, along arterials are 5 feet unless you're right starting at the back of the curb, in which case we go to a 6-foot sidewalk. But a 5-foot, I mean, we provided quite a number of case example photographs for the Commission's consideration. They show angle parking and bumper overhang at a bunch of different locations. I would think that if a 5-foot sidewalk was used at this particular location, it would help get enough additional depth behind the spaces to basically make everything work.
so like the picture of this white truck hanging over, that's a 5-foot sidewalk, not a 6? Picture, doesn't have a picture number. Top of page 15.
It looks like the truck's hanging over about a foot.
Yeah.
And that would still allow for an accessible path to be maintained.
Good.
Okay, so we don't have a motion yet. Hi, sir. If I could have your name, address, you have up to 5 minutes and fill out one of these when you're
I
done.
will, thanks. Jonathan Dotson, 1220 Northwest 20th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. One of the biggest concerns we have on this, if you haven't been out to the site, it's at the fact that the primary anchor tenant who's moving its headquarters from downtown to the east side it's basically deals primarily with geriatric care. And so the biggest burden that Tim has had is to be able to provide enough vehicles to drive there, but then also to provide enough width on the sidewalks, not just because we think there might be a wheelchair every once in a while. We think there will be wheelchairs on a daily basis. And right next to that is going to be another medical provider as well. And so providing as much access for people who are having to park in the back and walking up along Rhode Island is really critical to us to be able to provide an environment that they feel is safe and that they can walk to and all of those things. So typically we would be all on board on saying shrink the sidewalk if we need to provide more space, but we really need to hold as much sidewalk as possible due to just because of the uses of the space. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else wanting to speak on item 5G? Okay, we also have our staff input. Okay, now we're ready for a motion concerning item 5G. One second. Okay, Counselor, can we make a motion like that? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Miller to approve item 5G with a modification to have a 5-foot sidewalk. Okay? Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Hale. Okay, any talk on item 5G?
I think the applicant makes a pretty compelling argument for why we need a 6-foot sidewalk. But, I mean, I want to get the application approved, and I can go along, but I really think they make a good argument, and it probably would be best to keep a 6-foot sidewalk, but it's up to the commission.
Okay.
So just so I'm straight, the extra shortening of the sidewalk gets us 1 extra foot of parking, right? And that's why we're wanting to shorten it. So the truck can pull in, it turns it into a 23.5 foot instead of a 22.5 foot parking space.
Actually, it'll go from an 19.8 to a 20.8, which is just about a 21. Ideally, we were requesting the use of like a 22-foot deep space from perpendicular depth. So this is like a kind of like a compromise solution to the problem. And just to address the issues of like accessibility, are there anything other than 8.5-foot wide parking spaces being proposed on the site? Are they
in the parking lot in the rear? Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say.
Not along the on-street parking, both in front and on the side.
So really, I think that the use of a narrower sidewalk would probably be a reasonable compromise, because they're applying our basically off-street parking standards to basically a roadway type standard. And as noted last time, we're in the process of developing on-street parking standards. So in the future, developers can have something they can just latch on to, include in their and work that into their development plans up front.
Which we would in this case, of course, if we could just push the building over a foot or two. The problem is we're stuck with that width and that right-of-way on both sides. We're pinned in.
So, if you could just explain on the map where the main parking is going to be in the entrance. I just want to make sure I got it right on this picture.
You can refer to the display behind them, because they've got access to it in front of them.
So this is the additional parking that's been rezoned through the Planning Commission.
Right.
So this will be built. This is was the original 90-degree application. These are angled that are in the private property. So these are the parking spaces we've changed to 60-degree and lost a couple by doing that. And then these are all 9-foot spaces with handicap and spaces as well.
And where's the main entrance to the building?
Main entrances are here. So these are suites. So the one tenant's taking a major suite, and another tenant's taking this portion. Major tenant, major tenant.
And so anybody with the handicap vans will park on the bottom there, but then have to go up the sidewalk.
And I'll have to take this sidewalk up.
And there's also accessible parking that's off of Northeast 23rd Street.
Right here.
Right there.
Which is handicap van spaced also?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay. Any other talk on item 5G? We have a motion to approve item 5G from Commissioner Miller with a modification to make it a 5-foot sidewalk, seconded by Commissioner Hale. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. We go on now to item 5H, Martin to consider request to, one, change the speed limit on West Hefner Road between North Ann Arbor Avenue and North Meridian Avenue from 45 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour. 2, change the speed limit on West Hefner Road between North MacArthur Boulevard and North Ann Arbor Avenue from 45 miles per hour to 40 miles per hour. Or 3, change the speed limit on West Hefner Road between North MacArthur Boulevard and the State Highway 74, Lake Hefner Parkway, northbound on and off ramps from 45 miles per hour to 40 miles per hour. Hi, sir. If I could have your name, address,
Thank you.
have up
Yes,
to 5
Martin
minutes.
Otero, just like it's spelled. I know it looks hard. 10744 North Ann Arbor, and my house backs right up to Hefner Road, so I'm familiar with all the traffic goes east and west through there, and the different speeds that all the drivers use. Anyway, I was here to speak in favor of my motion, the one that you added, number 3. I never considered that the speed limit was 40 miles an hour all the way from Yukon all the way to Highway 74. I didn't drive that far. I normally just do between MacArthur and Highway 74. I noticed everybody else had 40-mile-an-hour speed limits, and I was wondering why we didn't on the highway, on Hefner Road behind the house. But after looking at your consideration and the study you did on it, I really appreciate it, and I took a different view on it, and I'm all in favor of it, and I do appreciate you guys doing all that work for me. It was quite detailed, and I really appreciate the work going into it. I just want to let you know I do appreciate what you're doing. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, can we have staff input, please?
Okay, you've got our comments before you, Mr. Otero. We appreciate your review and taking a look at our staff report. In this particular case, it's the original request included a request for a 30-mile-an-hour zone on a portion of Hefner Road. The road is built for speeds typically 40 and 45. What we did is we looked at kind of a broader picture and saw that by looking at a speed limit reduction to 40 miles an hour from MacArthur Boulevard all the way over to basically the Hefner Parkway, we'll establish a consistent 40-mile-an-hour speed limit on all of Hefner Road from basically the city, Oklahoma City's joint city limits over by the city of the Village to Mustang Road, which posts a 40-mile-an-hour limit for about 8 miles along the Hefner Road corridor. And so the staff had written and prepared item 3 in favor of consideration of parts 1 and 2 of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5H?
Move approval of the application, item number 3, change from 45 to 40.
And what about 1? Or
What about it? Disapprove item 1. I'm sorry, what? Yes, just approve 1 was my motion.
Okay.
Leaving the others out.
And Counselor, that's fine, just say to approve 3.
That's what I was trying to clarify. So the item as presented appears to be a choice between 1, 2, or 3. And Commissioner has chosen item 3.
Yes.
And that is his motion.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner George to approve item 5H, subpoint 3.
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Hale. Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5H, subpoint 3 from Commissioner George, seconded by Commissioner Hale. Votes, please. Okay, item is approved. We are on now to item 6, comments from citizens. Anybody else want to speak? You want to say anything else, sir? You want to say anything else? No? Okay, very good. Okay. We go on now to item 7, reports from traffic commissioners, et cetera. And we'll go on now to Commissioner Hale.
Nothing to report, sir.
Commissioner Schuline.
Nothing, thank you, sir.
Commissioner Miller.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Commissioner George. Okay. I have 3 items. First of all, our meeting in January is going to be on a Friday because of Martin Luther King. So remember, it's the 19th, so it's on that Friday. And that's been put out by the city clerk and all that. Another item, there's 2 items that are on city council tomorrow. One is the member-at-large spot. There is a name being sent up, and that information is in the city council agenda. And our ASAP program, the resolution is also going up to the city council. And we checked and we asked, and the staff would provide any comments to city council if they have any questions. There is staff here at the city council meetings, and they've done such a great job working with us that they have all the answers that I think anybody would ask. So I just wanted to update you on those kind of things. All right. Sir, do you have anything?
I actually do.
All right.
This will be my last meeting here. I'll be retiring on January 11th. I've taken a full-time position at OSU, OKC, to teach in their police science program. So I appreciate the time here and have learned a lot. I hope I've been of some benefit to you. I wish you all Merry Christmas and the very best.
Outstanding. Thanks for your service. Counselor, anything? Okay, staff?
No, I don't have anything further to add.
Okay.
Well, enjoy your retirement.
Yeah. Okay, is there any other business before the Traffic Commission? Okay, we stand adjourned.